DDM 2024.07 sees a number of changes to the bulk editor tool. Now, if for example, I've got a part here which is currently issue 82 and it's a released part. If you're not aware, the bulk editor tool allows me to modify attributes on single or multiple items at a time. In order to use the bulk editor tool, if I go to groups, we have a power group called bulk item editor. To use this tool, you must be in this group for the relevant business unit. It's a very powerful tool and therefore potentially dangerous. If I select a number of items, for example, all of these, and I use the bulk editor, the first enhancement is that if I change the attribute, for example, standard, and let's say I'm just going to apply this as a steel standard, that will do. Not sure if it's correct, but it's only for demonstration. Okay, so I'm going to apply this change to each of those items where we can see here we have now modified those attributes. Okay, what's important here is that it has not set the CAD parameter refresh attribute. Now, what is the CAD parameter refresh attribute? The reason why it hasn't set it is because the bulk editor now understands which of the attributes are mapped in the CAD parameter mapping tool, so that when you're loading and saving your CAD files to DDM, we're not setting that flag as needing to be refreshed. If I look at the example of SolidWorks here, we are only mapping the description, the issue and the item number. We are not mapping the standard. Okay, so if I then load, well, I have this part is currently used in an assembly. So now if I load that into my test assembly here, the system is not warning me that the parameter refresh has been set to yes, and therefore I can load my assembly. If I then choose to save my assembly, it's only flagging the parent assembly as needing saving because that's the item that I chose. So I'm going to cancel that. I'm going to close out of SolidWorks, clear my working folder. Okay. Now, if, for example, I now go in and I modify the description attribute, this has been mapped with CAD. So, if I edit the description, even though this is a released item, and I call this the bearing housing assembly, sorry, it's the bearing housing for SolidWorks, and I change this, what's happened now is because that is a mapped parameter, it has flagged that as a parameter refresh being required. Now, if I load my assembly again, this is my test assembly, upon load, it's warning me that one of the items in my assembly needs a parameter refresh because description is a parameter that's been mapped with CAD, and therefore we need to synchronize them. If I load my assembly now, again, it's warning me that this item is going to need to be updated and saved. So I'll say OK. And if I choose to save now, it's warning me that this file here requires saving because it had a CAD parameter refresh. Okay, so you're possibly seeing this in your system at the moment if you have modified parameters after they have been saved to DDM. Okay, so just to recap on that, the first enhancement is that the bulk editor tool intelligently looks to see if a parameter is mapped with CAD before setting the refresh flag to yes if you update it. The next enhancement is we have always had the ability to call the bulk editor from this window here. If we look at, for example, this assembly, and we now go into the structure in the embedded properties, I can request the bulk editor from this window. And again, you can single or multi-select. I could also, if I open the bill of materials, if I need to change something while I'm in here, I can also call the bulk editor tool. So this enhancement is that we've made the bulk editor accessible from a lot of the other windows inside DDM. Even if I say change status, it's showing me the items. If I needed to, I could do a bulk edit in here as well. And again, just to reiterate, the bulk editor tool is only available to people who are in the special power group. Okay. The next enhancement to the bulk editor tool is the ability to reset the parameter refresh. So if I'm happy that I don't need that updating because it's clearly released, so the only way to clear this at the moment is either to create a new issue from 82 to 83 or to roll the status back to work in progress, load it and save it, and then re-release it, and that will clear the parameter refresh. We've now given you the ability to use the bulk editor, again single or multi-select, and we can reset the parameter refresh flag to no. There are warnings in here. You are modifying the parameter refresh system attribute. Your setting will override any system setting. Setting this value to no will prevent automatic model drawing parameter refresh when loaded from DDM into the supported CAD application. Setting this value to yes will force automatic model drawing parameter refresh when loaded into the supported application. Are you sure? So we're giving you it as an option, but ultimately you decide. So if I want to continue with this, if I look at the audit trail for this particular item, then we have an entry in the audit trail saying that we did a bulk update today at this time, setting the parameter refresh from yes to no. You possibly in your database will have many purchased items that might have the parameter refresh flag set to yes, and therefore you could do a bulk update on all of those. So if when you're loading your assemblies it's requesting that you save many parts, consider the parameter refresh flag, and now we've got the tools in order to clear it. The next update is the ability to set the issue of an item. So I'm going to do this on a single item at the moment. If I choose this item, it's released. If for whatever reason I need to, I can single or multi-select, and I can now flag the issue, and let's say I want to go to A.1. Okay, and I've now updated the issue of this item to A.1. Because issue is mapped, it has set the parameter refresh to yes, which is correct. I could have chosen both the part and the drawing, and if I do the bulk update again and I'm changing the issue and I say actually I want both of them at A.1, I'm changing the issue without up issuing the part to a new version, but it has set the parameter refresh to yes. This is important specifically on a drawing because the drawing will need to be loaded and resaved because of the PDF attachment. So it's important that you understand the implications of what you're doing, but there are many cases where this will be something you need to do, and therefore as a power user of the bulk item editor, we've given you the ability to do this. The next example, I'm going to again go to this part 2.0. In fact, let's go for this part. There are 12 versions. If I copy this number, I'm going to run a search to only see this part in its drawing, and I'm going to just change my display filters so I see all issues of this part. If for whatever reason you want to change which is the latest issue, quite often people will have imported data. If you create something that you're bringing in that is an old item and therefore you need to set that as a previous issue or the latest issue for that matter, then we now have the ability to say, actually, this 10, if I edit the bulk editor here and say latest issue flag, I'm going to set this to yes. Right, warning, you are modifying the latest issue system attribute. Your setting will override all system settings. Setting this value to yes will mark all other issues of the same item number to be not latest issue. This is what I want. So what's happened here is we can now see that issue 10 is the latest issue and all of the other previous issues are not the latest issue. Now this clearly, in my demonstration, conflicts with the fact that issue 12 is the latest release. So you need to understand the implications of what you're doing, but again, as previously stated, we're giving you powerful tools to update and massage your data to whatever you believe to be correct. Okay, I won't roll this back because I will reset my database. So there are 5 new enhancements to the bulk item editor. Again, you need to be a power user to have access to this tool. You can access the bulk editor from any window now. It is intelligently looking to see if an attribute is mapped in the CAD parameter mapping before it sets it to yes. We have the ability to reset the parameter refresh flag. We can also set the issue of items, and we can determine if an item is latest issue or not. 5 great enhancements to the bulk item editor in DDM version 2024.07.